Hello, good morning students. Today we are going to discuss about the last topic in the chapter current electricity, which is about the potentiometer. So in this case, we are going to discuss the construction of the potentiometer and also the two applications of the potentiometer. First, let us understand what is the potentiometer. The potentiometer is a special device which is used for measuring EMFs. No other device can exactly measure the value of the EMF of a given cell. We can also use the voltmeter for measuring the voltage, which only measures the terminal potential difference between any two points. It does not measure the EMF. This is the only device which we are going to study in theory and also in laboratory, which can be used for exact measurement of the EMF. We know that whenever a cell is connected with voltmeter for measuring the EMF, then what happens is it will start to allow the current to flow through the circuit. When current flows, then we will never get the value of EMF. We will only get the value of the terminal potential difference. So that's why we are going to discuss in detail about the potentiometer. The potentiometer is made up of a large uniform wire. Yesterday itself I have explained the meaning of the uniform wire. It is the wire which is made up of same material and same area of cross section throughout its length. So that will be known as a uniform wire. That means resistivity and the area of cross section of the wire never changes from starting point to the end point. Usually, the length of the potentiometer could be different. It depends on the type of the potentiometer that we are going to use. For a large potentiometer, it could be length of the potentiometer wire can vary from 1 meter up to 10 meter. There are different devices, potentiometer using different lengths. So first one is either it might be using the 4-meter long uniform wire or 1 meter long uniform wire or 4-meter long uniform wire or 10-meter long uniform wire. Here everything will be mounted on a wooden board here. Actually the length of the wooden board will be little greater than the 1 meter. So it can only mount 1 meter wire. But how to mount the larger wires? We are going to use the number of pieces of same uniform wire, each of length 1 meter. And they will be, if assume that this is a wooden board, then these pieces of uniform wire, each of length 1 meter, so they will be placed like this. Here I have considered only 4 wires, each of length 1 meter. So that means the total length of the wire will be equal to 4 meter. Let us assume this is the starting point represented as A. I hope you can see this, or I will draw the larger diagram here. So larger wooden board, 4 wires each of length 1 meter, they will be placed parallel to each other. So one end will be provided with a screw for the external connection. I will call it as a point A. Then at the end of the 1 meter, so then here we are going to connect these 2 wires with the help of a thick metal strip like this. Obviously, because of the larger area of cross section of this metal strip, its resistance is negligible compared to the resistance of the wire. So this metal strip does not make any difference here to the total resistance of the potentiometer wire. Then at the end of the second wire, again the third wire will be connected with the help of another metal strip here, like this. At the end of the third wire, fourth wire will be connected again with the help of another metal strip. Finally, we will get the end point. Let us represent it as a B here. So here, AB will be of length 4 meter. How it is connected? It will be, this is the starting point and it runs like this. Up to this point it will be 1 meter. Then again it will start from now. Initially it will, reading will increase in this direction from left to right. 0, 1, 2, 3 like this up to 100 centimeter. Then from 100, 100 to like this, it will, we have to run the sliding contact in the opposite direction. Then again, here it will become 2 meters. Then from this point up to this, it will be 3 meters. Again like this. Then again like this. The final point B, total length of the potentiometer wire will be equal to 4 meters. So that is how the potentiometers are constructed. If we need a 10 meter long, then there will be 10 such wires, each of length 1 meter. Now, from this, we should be careful while taking the readings. To find out the balancing length in the experiment, if the reading will be somewhere here at this point, say, assume that it will be 20 centimeter from the starting point, 20 centimeter. On the next wire, how much it will be? It will not be equal to 120 centimeter. It will be equal to 1 meter from this, from A, then again from here to here, it will be 80 centimeter. It will be equal to 180 centimeter. Then, next line exactly below that point, it will be equal to how much? 220 centimeter. And the last line, it will be equal to how much? 380 centimeters. So this is how we have to take the readings. You should be very careful. We have to take the reading from both the scale which is mounted below the wires here. There will be, in each scale there will be two markings here. One starting from 0 and ending at 100 at the top. At the bottom, the same scale will start from the opposite point, 0 here, 100 here. So therefore, we have to take the alternate readings from the alternate scales here for the alternate wires. So therefore, obviously, you should be careful while taking the readings. But now, for our convenience, even for the examination, we do not have to draw such a diagram for the potentiometer. What we need is a uniform wire of certain length, which may be 1 meter, 4 meter, or 10 meter. We do not get bothered about it. And also, even though it is drawn like this in the textbook also, just we can take these two endpoints only. It will be more convenient for us for drawing the diagram. Okay, so therefore, I will take the potentiometer wire like this. The starting point is represented as A, end point will be represented as B, and it may be either 1 meter length or 4 meter length or 10 meter length. So, but that is how it will appear. Now, how to use the potentiometer for measuring the EMF of an unknown resistance? That's the first application. To measure, or actually here we are comparing the EMFs. How do we do that? How do we compare the EMF of the two cells? Here, in order to operate the potentiometer, we need a battery. So, which is used only for allowing the current to flow through the potentiometer. So, that battery is connected between A and B, the two ends of the potentiometer. So, for the positive of the external battery, it is connected to the point A, and negative through the key and a rheostat, it will be connected to the point B here. The rheostat is used in order that we can vary the applied potential difference across the potentiometer. Desired value can be applied here. Here we can see that we have drawn a circuit symbol for the battery, not cell. It is the combination of the cells here. Then followed by the plug key. Always, if it should be negative, should be followed by the plug key. Then a rheostat. Then it is connected to the B. So this battery will send the current through the potentiometer wire. That potentiometer will be, so that terminal potential difference will be equal to the, so between A and B, that will be equal to the potential difference maintained by the battery. This battery sends the current. Okay, remember that fact. Now, we have not considered the EMFs of the cells which should be compared. In order to compare the EMF of a given cell with another cell, we have to choose two cells. One is having the EMF E1, other one is having the EMF E2. First, I will consider one of the cell here. The cell whose EMF has to be determined or it should be compared, so that will be connected to the A cell. Remember that always the positive of the every cell will be connected to the same point, and that point will be treated as a starting point A. Even the cell of EMF E1, so that is connected, the positive of it will be connected to the point A. Then again, here, maybe to control the deflection in the galvanometer which is connected to the negative of the cell E1, so that will be, there will be galvanometer connected here. In order to control the deflection, so that the deflection is greater than the full scale deflection and the galvanometer won't be get destroyed because of allowing the large current, it will get destroyed. In order to avoid that, there may be another rheostat used, or there may be large resistance in series with the galvanometer may be used. Okay, but we just forget about that. From the another end of the galvanometer, so it will be connected to a sliding contact which will capable of sliding over the potentiometer wire from point A to the point B. So now if you make the contact with the potentiometer wire, galvanometer will start to show some deflection. That means the current is flowing through the galvanometer. That current flowing in the galvanometer is due to the cell E1, not due to the battery, it is due to the cell E1. Now we have to make the such adjustment such that here that means the jockey should be slided over the potentiometer wire from starting point towards the end point until the deflection in the galvanometer reaches 0. Okay. Imagine that at some point somewhere here, the deflection in the galvanometer will become 0. That is the null point. I will call it as N1. It is the null point obtained for the cell of EMF E1. Then we can see that now deflection in the galvanometer is equal to 0 means what? There is no current flowing in this branch of the circuit. That means now the galvanometer or the potentiometer, it is not drawing the current from the cell of EMF E1. No current is flowing through the cell. So that's why we will get the EMF. So in the previous classes we have seen that EMF is determined as the potential difference between the two terminals of the cell when it does not allow the current to flow through it. When the current flowing through the cell is equal to 0. So that condition has been achieved here. Only when we are adjusting the position of the jockey at this null point, then only we will be able to measure the EMF. Otherwise, if we keep this in contact with the potentiometer wire at different positions, then obviously we will not get the value of E1. We will get the value of the terminal potential difference across the cell. So therefore, you should be careful about that point here. So only at this particular point, the current in the cell will be equal to 0. Hence, we can determine the value of E1. Now, in these conditions, so what happens? So that we are going to consider using the Kirchhoff's voltage rule. So here, if you use the Kirchhoff's voltage rule, the galvanometer might be having a resistance represented as G, but the potential difference or the voltage drop, IR drop across the galvanometer will be equal to 0. Why is that? Because the current flowing through the galvanometer is 0, Ig being equal to 0, so therefore Ig into G will be equal to 0. So therefore there is no potential drop or the IR drop across the galvanometer when it is in the zero deflection condition. Now, what are the possible energies and also the IR drops here? So that we are going to consider. Here there is only one cell which is represented as having the EMF E1. Only one EMF is present, and also there will be a potential drop across the wire, potentiometer wire of length, say A to N1 here. And that length, let us represent it as a L1. I will represent that length A to N1 as L1. So there will be a potential drop or IR drop due to the current supplied by the battery. So this IR drop is due to the current supplied by the battery. And we know that in this case, we are only trying to find out how this potential difference, which can be obtained using the Ohm's law. Actually, expression will be represented as the potential drop through a length of L1 will be represented as V1. It may be represented as V1. It can be represented with the help of the Ohm's law. If I is the current flowing in the potentiometer wire, I is current flowing in the potentiometer wire. I will repeat it once again. This current is due to the battery, not due to the cell. Remember that fact. If I is the current and the resistance of the wire of this length, of length L1 is represented as R1, then this potential drop is equal to I into R1. Okay. But here we can see that if we are not going to change the position of the rheostat, then the value of the current flowing in the potentiometer, which is due to the battery, is going to be a constant. I will be a constant unless we are going to change the position of the rheostat. In order to obtain the different readings, we are going to do that. But for a given reading, I is a constant. And this resistance, it is the resistance of a uniform wire whose length will be equal to L1 only, of length L1. So that means throughout the length of the potentiometer wire, area of cross section and resistivity are going to be a constant. So for we know the expression for the resistance, general expression, it will be equal to rho into L divided by area of cross section. Since these two are constants, again constants, rho and A are constants, so for I into, if we substitute these values here, so then we will get V1 is equal to I into R1, so that will be equal to I into rho divided by A into L1, where this term, by rearranging them, I have written in this form, which is a constant, just for your knowledge. So here, what we can see is that since this is a constant, the potential drop V1 is directly proportional to the length L1. Okay. So therefore, everything that is written in the bracket, it can be treated as a constant. And we are going to represent that constant. So this as a constant, to introduce a proportionality constant, we are going to represent it as V1 is equal to a some constant represented by Greek letter phi into length L1. Balancing length, that is known as a balancing length, where the deflection in the galvanometer is exactly balanced at the center, which is equal to 0. So therefore, obviously it is known as a constant. What should be the meaning of the, so this constant, what do you call this constant? It is the potential drop per unit length or potential difference per unit length. Okay. So this is a length. If you rearrange them, so then phi should be is equal to how much? Voltage divided by or potential difference divided by the length. So therefore, it is potential difference per unit length. That's the meaning of the constant. Just we need a constant. For a given potentiometer Y, so this will be a constant. So that's all we need to know. So forget about all this. In examination, we do not need to write this, but all we need is that here the potential drop over a particular length, say L1 or just for generalizing the things, the potential drop over a length L V should be directly proportional to the length of the potentiometer wire, not entire potentiometer wire, balancing length of the potentiometer wire. So in order to form an equation, so we are going to introduce a proportionality constant phi into L, where phi is a potential drop per unit length. So that's the meaning. But how we have obtained that, I have explained it with the proof, which from the knowledge that we have gained in the previous classes. Okay. All we need is this much. So this potential difference, if length is represented as L1, then obviously we can see that. So there is a potential drop over this length and also EMF. These are the only two things that we can see. Now we are going to apply the Kirchhoff's voltage law, according to which the summation of EMFs should be is equal to the summation of the IR drops. Okay. But here, instead of considering this as an IR drop, we are going to consider the potential drop. Not written in terms of the resistance into current, but it is written in terms of some constant into length. So therefore, I will treat it as a V itself. So for voltage drop, V. So summation of voltage drop. There is no IR drop because there is no current in the galvanometer. So therefore, Ig into G will be equal to 0. And even if it is having the internal resistance, since there is no current, no IR drops in this branch. But here there is a current which is due to the battery. Hence, due to this current from the battery, there is IR drop. I hope you have understood it correctly. So therefore, substituting that, the summation of EMF, everything is there is only one single cell, so therefore it will be represented as E1. Remember that, yet I have not placed the polarity. That should be equal to the voltage drop, which is equal to single one, which I will treat it as a V1. Imagine that, it will be equal to V1, and which is equal to phi into L1. Okay, I will represent it as a phi into L1. Now, we have to place the polarity. That depends on how we are traversing in the circuit. It will depend on us. You can choose any path. Either we can move in a clockwise direction or the anti-clockwise direction. It does not make any difference here. Let's now choose the anti-clockwise direction. Okay. So far we were choosing the clockwise direction only. Now, in order that you will not get confused, then we are going to use the anti-clockwise direction. We are moving in this direction from A to E1 to galvanometer G to N1, again back to A, anti-clockwise direction. So when we are moving in the anti-clockwise direction, then we can see that here in cell E1 we are moving from higher potential to the lower potential. Energy is decreasing. So therefore, EMF will be treated as negative. Okay. Then, no IR drops here. But when we are moving from N1 to A, then we can see that due to the battery, the direction of the current will be always from positive to negative. So therefore, if here there is a current I, we do not need that. But for our convenience, I have written this. For the time being, I will rub it later. So, if the current is in this direction, we are moving in a direction opposite to that of the current. Okay, so therefore it will be treated as negative, minus. So therefore we will get minus E1 is equal to minus pi into L1. So this equation we get. Minus A is equal to minus B. So therefore A should be equal to B. So it can be written as, since there is a negative sign on both sides, we can write it as E1 is equal to phi into L1. So we know that from the mathematics. Similarly, if we choose in an opposite direction, clockwise direction, then what happens? We are moving in the direction of the current itself. This will become positive, and we are moving from negative to the positive of the cell. This will also become, result will be the same. Whatever may be the direction in which you may traverse, we will get the same result. So therefore, you should not get worried about which direction to follow. If you are comfortable with the clockwise direction, always follow that direction. Whatever you do, you will get the correct equation if you follow the correct steps. Okay. Do not get confused with that fact also. If EMFs and IR drops are on the same side of the equation, so then in the direction of the current, IR drops will become negative. Okay. If instead of writing this as summation of E is equal to summation of V, if you write it as a summation of E plus summation of V equal to 0, so then IR drops will become negative in the direction of the current. So let us do not confuse ourselves by following different rules. Okay, we going to stick to the same rule, which is summation of EMS should be equal to summation of IR drops. This we do not need. So therefore, whatever may be the rule, if we follow the rules, then we will get the correct results. That's what I am saying here. Clockwise direction of traverse or anti-clockwise direction of traverse, the result will be the same. Now, we have found the expression for the EMF E1. But how do we find out the expression for the EMF E1? It is not possible from this equation, because we do not know the value of phi. Because it depends on various factors like current, the area of cross section of the wire, and also the material of the wire. So we do not need to do that. If we use another cell to compare the EMF. So therefore, we are going to use the two cells together. I am going to use another cell also, which is having the EMF E2. Again, the positive of the same cell. Second cell will also be connected to the same point A. Negative is connected to the galvanometer. Now look at the diagram. We cannot connect both the cells at the same time to the galvanometer. So for that, in order to connect these two cells one by one, we use a device known as a two-way key. Two-way key means either cell E1 can be connected to the, say I will draw the galvanometer here, can be connected to the galvanometer, or cell E2 can be connected to the galvanometer, not both at the same time. So that two-way key will be represented with the help of three dots. Three dots. These three dots will be representing the two-way key. Actually, it is there will be three metal pieces present like this. Three metal pieces present with the two gaps, and for each metal pieces there will be a connecting screws. We have to connect the center screw with the galvanometer here, and the two ends of the two-way key should be connected to the negative of the each cell. Okay, there will be only one plug key will be provided. If you close the key here, that means here cell E1 is connected. If you remove that and put it on the other gap, then obviously E1 is disconnected and E2 is connected. So therefore, we can connect both the cells one by one in a given circuit. We do not have to remove everything. When we make the circuit connections, so then it will be like this. Connection will be like this. So when we connect the first cell by closing this position, by connecting this, then we will get the null point is equal to n1 at n1. So we have obtained this equation. We can assume that we have obtained this equation. Similarly, if we change the position of the two-way key, so that now cell E2 is connected, then again we have to slide the sliding contact or the jog key over the potentiometer wire. Again, battery is sending the same current. So then, for some other point, we will get the null point depending upon the EMF of the second cell. Let us assume that it will be somewhere here. It will be N2. Okay. Same sliding contact is now in contact with a potentiometer wire at a different position N2. So therefore, it will be represented like this. From the diagram, do not get confused that we are going to use two sliding contacts. We are going to use only one sliding contact. First, when cell E1 is connected, null point is obtained here. When same jog key finds the null point for the second cell at N2. There are no two sliding contacts. Single sliding contact is there. But now, when this length A to N2 is equal to, let us assume that it is equal to L2, then potential drop over this length A to N2, so that will be represented as V2, and obviously that should be equal to how much? Same constant into L2. Why same constant? Because we have not changed the position of the rheostat. Battery is sending the same current. Potentiometer wire is again the same. So therefore, same constant. Potential drop per unit length. So therefore, now for the second cell, using the Kirchhoff's law, we will get the expression E2 should be is equal to phi into L2. If we divide these two equations, E1 by E2, so we will get E1 divided by E2 should be is equal to 5L1 divided by 5L2. So therefore, obviously 5 and 5 get cancelled, remaining term will be equal to L1 divided by L2, whose value can be determined experimentally. L1 and L2 will be found experimentally. If we know the value of EMF of one of the cell, the standard cell, which is treated as standard cell. If you need to find out the EMF of an unknown cell, let it be represented as E1. If this is unknown, then other one should be known to us. It should be delivering the standard value of the EMF. Like you can use the Leclanché cell or Daniell cell. Then it has a standard value of the output EMF. So this is known to us. Then substituting the value of E2 in the equation, we can find out the value of EMF. E1 should be is equal to L1 divided by L2 into E2. So this is how we can determine the exact value of the EMF of a given cell. This is the required circuit here. Look at the circuit and follow these steps here. Same thing, simple. It is very simple here. It is not that difficult. We can use these steps in a simple manner. Okay. I'm recording this video. I am finding it difficult to move. If I'm moving in one side, I'm going in the other side. It is really hard for me today. So now, so that's why I'm keep going out of the frame. I'm trying to come into the frame, but I'm going out of the frame. Look, I'm moving like this. I'm going out. I'm going in the other way. So forget about this. So here, this is the steps you have to follow. In a potentiometer wire, the potential drop is directly proportional to the length. That's the important thing. You have to remember that at the balance condition only, the potentiometer is not drawing the current from the cells. Of course, there is a current in the wire, but which is due to the battery, not due to the cells. Since potentiometer at the balanced condition is not drawing the current, we can exactly measure the value of the EMFs using the potentiometer. No other device can do this. So that's the advantage of the potentiometer. there is one more application also. One is to compare the EMFs, which we have discussed. While comparing the EMFs, we do know the value of EMF of one of the cell. We can find out the EMF of the other cell. So the second application is that this potentiometer can be used to measure the internal resistance of a cell. Okay? No other device can do exactly like the potentiometer does when we are measuring the internal resistance of a given cell. So we can use the potentiometer. The circuit is again same, but since we are not comparing the EMFs, there won't be two cells. There is only a single cell. So therefore, I will take a single cell like this. There will be a single cell whose EMF is represented as E and internal resistance is represented as R. We need to find out the value of R now. How do we do that? So we are going to connect again the positive of the cell to the and the positive of the battery to the same point which is taken as a starting point. That is treated as A. Other one is end point, that will be B. Battery is connected in the same manner. Again here also the negative is connected to the galvanometer. Then it is connected to the sliding contact which is capable of moving or sliding over the length of the potentiometer wire. So therefore here we will take a single wire. So this is how we are going to draw the diagram. But since we need to measure the internal resistance, we are going to take another standard resistance box, which is having the greater resistance, which is treated as an external resistance, capital R. But that external resistance is connected parallel to the cell whose internal resistance has to be determined. So therefore, here I am not going to use the zigzag line for representing the external resistance. It will be represented in the form of a box. That means this can deliver different resistances. Using the plug keys, we can change the resistance which is connected parallel to the cell. Okay, that external resistor is represented as R. Now, this external resistor is followed by a plug key. It is followed by a plug key. Then it is connected to the cell, negative of the cell. Then negative of the cell and the galvanometer are connected. So it is a junction here. Again, this is a junction. This junction, these are not two different junctions. These are the same junction. Okay. I will show how to make the circuit connections in the next classes. So now, this is the circuit diagram for measuring the internal resistance of a given cell. This is the arrangement. Now, how do we do that? How do we do that? Same thing. Same principle is used here. The potential drop over the length is directly proportional to the length of the potentiometer. So therefore, the same rule will be used here. While comparing the EMFs, we have seen that the potential drop, if this is the length, say L, the potential drop over this length, V, is directly proportional to, or the EMF. If we obtain the balancing point, then EMF is directly proportional to the length. So that we have seen. So that's why comparing the EMF, we have found that E1 by E2 should be equal to L1 by L2, which does mean that E1 should be directly proportional to L1 and E2 should be directly proportional to L2. So this was the result that we are going to use here. Here also, first we have to keep this key open. When we keep this key open, that means this resistor is removed from the circuit. It is not included now. Actually, it is in the circuit, but its effect has been removed. It is as if the circuit is not connected at all. Only cell is connected. And when we obtain the balancing point, then obviously there is no current flowing in the cell. Hence, what do we get? When no current is flowing in the cell, then we get the EMF. If the balancing length is represented as, say here, it will be somewhere here. If you assume that it will be somewhere here, this length is represented as L1. Then we know that the EMF of the cell should be directly proportional to that length. Forget about that proportionality constant phi. We only need this. So this EMF will be directly proportional to L1. Okay. Then after that, we are going to close this key. When we close this key, we are applying a finite resistance R. Say R. It can be changed. It can be 5 ohm, 10 ohm, or anything. It should be a definite value. Once you apply it, it should be a constant value. If resistance R is connected parallel to the cell, now the balancing point will found to be different. Why? We will explain. But here we can see that the balancing lengths, we have to do the same thing. By connecting the resistance, by including the resistance, by closing the key, we have to again find out the balancing length by sliding the jockey over the potentiometer wire. So somewhere here, we will find the balancing length, which is represented as L2. Which is represented as L2. Now, it is not the EMF. Because since the resistor is connected, even though there is no current is flowing in the galvanometer, since we are obtaining the zero deflection point, but the current will be flowing in the external resistor R, which is drawn from the cell. The current I, say, we are going to assume that a current I, so from positive to negative, so like this, so current will be flowing in this branch only from cell to the external resistor, again back to the cell, not here. Okay, so therefore this is now not a EMF. The potential difference between the cell is lesser than the EMF. It is terminal potential difference, and that terminal potential difference is represented as V. Now this terminal potential difference is directly proportional to the length L2. That's why you can observe on the diagram, I have drawn this length L2 smaller than L1. Why? We know the reason. EMF is always greater than the terminal potential difference. That's we have seen in the previous classes. Okay. So here we should be remembering the fact that because of this reason, when you compare the lengths without the external resistance R, when this key is kept open, we get the balancing length L1, and by connecting the resistance R, we will get the balancing length L2. L1 should be always greater than the L2. Okay. In practicals, what we are going to do is, we are going to change the value of the resistance. We are going to increase the resistance. When we increase the resistance, we get the different values of L2. We are going to tabulate the value of L2. L1 is fixed. It will be obtained only once. But L2 will be different for different values of the R, capital R. So therefore, different values of L2 will be obtained. But we have to remember that if you increase the value of R, the value of L2 will also increase. But it will never be greater than the L1. If you get L2 greater than L1, you have made something wrong in the measurement of the L1 only. So that's the meaning. So therefore, you have to use some common sense while doing the experiments. Just do not do it mechanically. Use your common sense. Okay. So this is the fact. I will rub this. Now, if we divide these two, like we have done before, while comparing the EMFs, in the earlier cases, there were two EMFs. Now, one is EMF, other one is terminal potential difference. They are proportional to their lengths. So, therefore, when you take the ratios, we will get E divided by V should be is equal to L1 divided by L2. What is our objective? Our objective is to determine the internal resistance. So, that's why we have determined the current flowing in this branch only this branch, not in the potentiometer wire. I is the current flowing in the cell and the external resistance R, not through the potentiometer wire. We do not need that. Okay. Then we have determined the expression. If V is the terminal potential difference, E is the EMF, V is the terminal potential difference, and I is the current, and R is the internal resistance. What is the relation between them? So we know that E must be is equal to how much? V plus IR. Okay, that's the value of E. And using the Ohm's law, the potential difference across the resistor, which is across the cell, can be determined. How do we do that? That will be is equal to I into R. Okay. If I substitute this value for V here, we will get E must be is equal to how much? IR into small I into small r. Okay. So therefore, if we take the I common, so then we can write E must be is equal to R plus small r. Now we are going to substitute the value of V and E in this equation. So therefore, E divided by V should be is equal to how much? If you substitute the value of E and V, it will be is equal to L1 by L2. Substitute the value of E is equal to I into R plus small r divided by V, which is equal to I into R. So therefore, I and I get cancelled. We have only used the value of I in the circuit so that we can use those equations. The value, the actual value of I is not necessary. We do not need to find out the value of I by connecting the ammeter. We do not need that. It will get cancelled. When we are trying to find out the internal resistance, current will get cancelled. So therefore, it is only considered, not measured. Okay. So therefore, since we need to find out the value of R, we have to rearrange the expression. That we will do here. We will do that here. So therefore, R plus R divided by capital R should be is equal to L1 by L2. Distribute the R. So therefore, it will be is equal to 1 plus R divided by R should be is equal to L1 by L2. I am doing each of the step here. The 1 will be taken on the other side. R divided by R should be is equal to how much? L1 by L2 minus 1. Okay. Now, this R will be taken on the other side. So, for internal resistance, small r will be is equal to the expression. Small r will be equal to this much. It is equal to L1 by L2 minus 1 into capital R. Remembering this expression is very easy if you understand the concept. Resistance, remember that resistance can never be negative. It cannot be negative. And we know that L1 is greater than L2. So we know this fact. L1 should be always greater than L2. So if we find the value of R equal to negative, then obviously what happens? It will contradict the fact that resistance is a scalar. So therefore, it should not be negative. You have done something wrong in your calculation only. That's the meaning of that. If R is small r is negative, then you are wrong. You have written the equation wrong or you have obtained the values wrong. So therefore, since L1 is greater than L2, so this term is always greater than 1. L1 by L2 is always greater than 1. If subtract 1 from that, a term which is greater than 1, the term written in the bracket will be always positive. So therefore, R again, resistance, it should be positive. Positive into positive will be positive. So that's we have to remember. Therefore, it should be L1 divided by L2 minus 1, not L2 by L1 minus 1. It will be negative. So therefore, even if you calculate something, if you get the answer, you should be able to analyze that whether this answer is correct or wrong. If you know the theory correctly, then you will be able to do that. Otherwise, it will be difficult. I hope you have understood everything. The two applications of the potentiometer. So in the different videos, we are going to try to solve some of the numerical problems. Up to this you have understood this. I will move away for a while so that you can take the screenshot of this and you can write the notes. I will move away for once. Oh, this is enough. It is enough time to take a screenshot. You can pause the video and take the screenshot and take the readings. Thank you.